I wanted to do this since I have at least some experience in both franchises. Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So today I'll be doing a half-assed guide for the Fate players that want to get into Honkai Star Rail for the Unlimited Blade Works event coming soon to Honkai Star Rail in version 3.4. Now, heads up, this isn't like the best or the most perfect guide. This is just let's go with a basic one. Regardless of the fact that I try to at least cover as much as I can without just going straight into like the main story, because I've already done the main story for the time being. So yes. And with that said, so the game itself features 7 different types, and they are physical, fire, lightning, ice, wind, quantum, and imaginary. Now, in terms of how they work, they all have different break effects. Think of it like, oh crap. I know there's some enemies in Fate, Grand Order at least, where you have to break a particular... Okay, think of it as the status elements that you can sometimes inflict onto enemies in Grand Order, at least. Each of them does something different, like fire burns, it leaves a burning effect, wind leaves a scarring effect, imaginary imprisons, stuff like that. And then we have paths. Now, paths themselves are more tied to the character themselves and not so much to the combat itself. But in at least Grand Order, both of them are connected. They're basically the same thing. And it ties into the combat for the most part. Now, in terms of types, it factors into the combat in terms of what you can use to get a better, an upper edge on your enemies. So, get into a fight. Which place has? Okay, this one has enemies. Unlike in at least Grand Order, where you go to a map and choose a spot to go farm or go do story bits, you have to travel around. Oh. Hey, it's been a while since I've ran through the Herta space station, so before combat there is a HUD display that gives you an idea as to what you can use for weakness. Make it easier on yourself. And if you attack first, you'll end up dealing some damage beforehand with that weakness. Oh, Trotter. That works too. So, in combat, you can use fast forward and auto combat.
I will dispatch you.
A lot of players do shame you, but I don't really give a shit.
That paradise may be unreachable for me. Savor it for me.
But it's generally better to use the weakness because you can break the guard, I guess. But it's not necessary, especially if you build up your characters.
I have something for you.
A blade knows no mercy.
Now, characters with this, they do run if you don't kill them. But you do get better rewards that way.
A delicate operation.
This game does offer bosses, and you can do boss refights. Oh yeah, I have to... Yeah, you can only do boss refights 3 times a week. Yeah, but I think you don't refight them in Grand Order, so I guess that's a decent trade-off. Now, in terms of what to expect out of the story, if you plan on flying through it, is that the game does give you basic tutorials on how to do combat. Going into another one, I'll show that off. Did this floor have encounters? No, I don't think so. Well, in that area. Yeah, there should be encounters here. Since I left the safe zone. Or not. There are some here. I believe there are. Oh, nope. Never mind, there aren't. There's one of the Herda dolls. Ah, here we go. Alright. So, during combat, on the upper left-hand corner, as you can see, it's a turn counter. As in, yes. It factors into speed and other things. As when your bar gets broken or you get status ailment, it does affect first when you can attack. Now bursts in this game can be carried over between battles by comparison to Grand Order, where you have to have an equip in order to get your bar at the very beginning before any skills get used. Just gonna mention that. And this game does have achievements tied to certain ultimates. Like, for example, with Himiko's ult, there's one where it says drink coffee 5 times in a... Wait. Oh, okay. In combat, which is her ult, where she sits down and has a cup of coffee. Oh. But, yeah, that's basically it. In terms of, like, drops, every combat gives you drops. It's not... maybe it's a definite that you'll get drops. Now, in terms of the character themselves, in terms of, well, not in terms of, but when concerning skills, easy to determine where you have to go to get those drops, because you can just go to character, go to what's needed, and go straight to it. But like I said, you only have 3 drops from bosses each week. They do replenish every Monday. The other stuff, there is a percentage as to how much you can get, but you are guaranteed to get drops regardless. It's not, as I mentioned before, a maybe. It is a yes, you will. So, and these are just examples of how the skill trees look. I'm not sure on how the ones for Archer and, well, for Emiya and Artoria Pendragon are going to look. This is the equivalent to the craft essence. It's situated by path, and that, I believe, is the only real reason why the path system works. Outside of the story, is for the Eclipse. And it does work similarly to upgrading the craft essence in terms of getting higher level ones. Super imposition is the same thing as just upgrading the it's the same thing as upgrading the level cap on Craft Essence in Fate Grand Order. So, but you have to have multiple copies. Same with here, though I think it's a little bit easier to get them in this game. Now, in terms of, I need to stop saying that. Now, when it concerns the pools, this game actually calls them warps. I know there was a post I saw on Twitter that called them summons, but the game calls them warps. I call them express calls, considering it's a train, but they are warps. And yes, I am still saving up for the event. Not the event, the version when it comes out. So yeah, you have your 2 main character ones. You have your your light cone, which is craft essence, ones, and then you have your standard one or your regular warp, which is the equivalent of the friend point one or the story-based one, I believe, because it uses a similar style currency. Now, as far as like store is concerned, it's similarly to like if you played Genshin, but slightly better. Stay tuned. Huh. So yeah. Mind you, I have not spent a dime on this game. Yeah. Yeah, they're still celebrating the 2-year anniversary, so just saying. Cherish recollection. But this game does have events like Grand Order, but you can replay a fair number of them to get the rewards. Unlike Grand Order and in Genshin, though they do bring back some events, but I swear. Oh, I did. Because the thing on there. It's got a check mark in the middle. And yes, the events are wide in widespread of uniqueness for the most part. Same basic idea for some of them, but it is unique enough to warrant certain things. What else do I want to talk about? Oh yeah, the dailies. Unlike in Fate, where you just have to do 3 battles to get mana prisms, you can just do a couple of things. Like, nowadays, you can just go through 2 runs of 60 energy battles, and that's it for the dailies. Each daily gives you a max of 60 Stellar Jade and other items. Kind of similarly to, well, the same thing as Genshin. Nameless Honor is the same thing as the Battle Pass in Genshin. It's, I want to say the clipboard feature in Fate Grand Order. But this is more so during that time period of the Battle Pass rather than like achievements. The achievements are on their own page itself, broken up into the different categories instead of just one long list, and it bringing it up as you complete them. So yes. Teams. I hate it does that. Okay. So teams you can build up yourself. And you can swap out easily between fights in like domains and all that. There are some parts of the game where you're forced into playing as a particular character, like in Grand Order. But they do show you who you play as in the story cutscenes, whereas I think it's a little bit well, it does that in Fate Grand Order too, but you tend to forget after a bit as to what you were doing. What else? What else did I want to talk about? Oh yes, the characters themselves. They are pertinent to the story themselves, the main story. And it's not like, okay, this person's in the event and you'll never see them in the main story. Like, for example, I believe a good example is Britomart. She showed up in the Fairy Night Cup event, and nope, she hasn't shown up in the main story. Whereas every single one of these has shown up in one way or another. Outside of maybe Luca, but even then they treat the event as part of the main story. So yes. Now I know that the events kind of are counted towards the main story, but it's more so... I want to say kind of like a side story to the main story. But all these are pertinent to the main story because it's world building in those areas. And speaking of which... Yes. Different areas that you can explore. Each map tells you how many treasures and other items that are in them. It changes with each world as to what you can find, where you can find them. Yes, there's a mission list which I have not completed. Whatever. Anything else I want to talk about? Friends list. Yes. 100 friends, but I mean, the one downside I will say in this game is you can't have duplicates of the same character in the same combat team from friend list and yours, and who you have, which is the one downside, but it helps with team building. And it helps spreads out like the weaknesses that you can use for combat. Now, in terms of the weaknesses, they do not affect you. Your characters do not have weaknesses. However, your characters are susceptible to different effects and generally have less HP than like the current enemies for the most part. Like for example, Natasha here has 5,800 HP. The current, well, at least with the bosses, they all have multiple bars. It's not like, oh, it's just a boss with one bar that has like a couple million or a million. So, now I know there are some bosses in Grand Order that have multiple bars. There are some enemies, regular ass enemies, that do have multiple bars. But the difference is that the enemies in this game have a break bar, which counts as a second health bar already. Let's see. But regardless, they should be showing off Emiya's ult soon enough. They did show off Saber's ult, that being was her basic ult from the Sword of Camelot, that being Excalibur, before anybody corrects me. And my guess is he'll still retain his usual lines that were also used in Grand Order. Now, I know they're from Unlimited Blade Works, but I know them more so from Grand Order, since I still do play that game. At some point, I do need to look into doing Unlimited Blade Works. Not sure when. But I believe that's the gist of what I wanted to talk about. There is logins and everything else. Yeah, actually, that's gonna do it, as far as I can think of. So, until next time, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.